Christian, I saw that you were going to answer the question about what physical activities you all do during your jobs.
I was just typing an answer actually as you spoke. So I don't know how it shows up. I typed an answer to the very interesting question about how many ohia trees have died since 2017. So hopefully that answer points to a ballpark. But since I just started typing an answer to the physical activity question, I'll just share that unfortunately, since I'm older, a lot of my physical activity is walking from the car in the parking office. But not too long ago, I was hiking in the field with Creighton and Kainana and looking for places to put plots to look at how trees grow, how fast they grow, what kind of trees and plants there are in the plots, what kind of organisms are in soil. So just getting out in the forest, getting out and planting trees like the ones behind me in the image. Yeah, those are some of the basic and most fun activities.
So the conversation we've been having relates to a question I really loved from Faith and Chanston. They both had similar questions. How has your work affected or changed Hawaii? And more broadly, what is the impact you're trying to have with your work?
Can you repeat that question, Maya?
Yes, absolutely. So do you feel that your work has affected or changed Hawaii? And more broadly, what is the effect that you are trying to have with the work you're doing?
I'll chime in here. So is the work I'm doing impacting Hawaii or my community, whatever? I would hope so, because that's why I'm here, right? Is to help serve my community, and the way that I feel most useful, I guess, where my skills or my talents or the things I know, where I feel like they're most useful is, helping put projects together or finding people to come do the work. And so, kind of touching base on what Christian was saying earlier too, right? About what when I first started working for Forest Service, a lot of my job was hiking around in the forest and putting up research plats, collecting data, or going to check things. And more, I've been given the kuleana, or the responsibility of sort of helping to lead the project. So getting people together, making sure we have what we need to do the work, figuring out what are the steps we're gonna do to install a research plot or whatever like that. And I feel like I'm really good at connecting things, so making the puzzle pieces fit together. And I'm really good at coordinating. And I think one way that I'm impacting my community or giving back to my community is helping helping young adults, people who are in school, people who just finished school, kind of find their path. What are they interested in? And then helping them to connect with opportunities to be able to explore that. And so I get to work a lot with interns or Kupu members, which is a great program for you guys to learn about. It's called Kupu, Kupu. Go check it out. But just connecting them with these different opportunities so that they can explore conservation, aloha aina, malama aina things, whether it's up Mauka in the forest or down Makai, working at a fish pond, a lopoi or something. And for me, I feel like that's the biggest give back that I'm doing for my community, besides, going out to help restore a forest or, I don't know what else do I do, collecting data to help understand what's going on with our ohia trees. I think the biggest impact I'm having is helping connect people, helping them you know, find their paths. Because if I help 5 people become, you know, the conservationists they are meant to be, that means 5 other people helping to malama Hawaii's resources and doing conservation things to, you know, just help keep our places and our home, you know, healthy and thriving. And so, yeah, I think that's maybe one of the biggest impacts. And I hope it's working. I feel like a lot of people I know who I worked with in the past are in conservation still and like doing what they want to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, having worked with Kainana for a few years now, I think I've seen her mentor a lot of different people, and I think it's working. I think it's very good at it. I guess I'll just share that from my perspective, my intention and my hope for the work that I do with the foundation that I work for is to basically provide, on one hand, it's to provide opportunities for students to sort of get to know their forests. So programs like Teaching Change, you know, students are able to go to the forest overnight and, you know, become more acquainted with these places where that are near where they live and to learn more about them. So that's one of our sort of goals. And then more broadly, I think my goal is to really support community-based stewardship. So, you know, I hope that the research I'm doing and the work on like this, there's a community forest project that our foundation supports. My hope is that supporting those programs really helps to sort of facilitate future community-based efforts. So, you know, providing more access to forests for local people, providing more access to culturally important, you know, plants and people being able to use the natural resources sustainably. Those are the kinds of impacts we're hoping to have, as well as to support our forests through, you know, research about rapid ohia death and that kind of thing, and to support the health of our forests. So for us, you know, the health of the forest and the community is really tied together and interconnected. So in whatever different ways we can do that. And a lot of that, I think, starts with, you know, building relationships and connections with this forest, you know, and kids and youth. So yeah, that's what we're hoping to do.
Speaking of the health of the forest ecosystem, we have a question about what are some, oh, I see Christian has answered. Thank you, Christian. But yeah, it was a question about what destructions are happening in Mauka that's changing the kai more recently. If you want to read the answer, it is in the chat. Thank you. Another question that some of the students had was what kind of degree or education you would need to pursue this career, which is helpful as students are moving through middle school into high school and starting to think about what their pathway might be.
That's an excellent question. I'll take a first stab at that. And I think the answer is it depends. And it depends on what it is you want to do in natural resource management. If you want to be like Christian and be a research ecologist for the US Forest Service, you're going to need a PhD for that in ecology, which means an undergraduate, probably a master's degree, and then a PhD. The same would be the case if you want to be a professor at a university. But there are a lot of people doing fantastic work in natural resource management that do not have PhDs. I know of people with high school diplomas that are doing wonderful things to help manage natural resources in Hawaii. Other positions are probably going to require an undergraduate degree. Kainana's position, if I'm not mistaken, was something that required her to have a master's degree, right? So she went and got an undergraduate degree, and then she got a master's degree in the general field of natural resources. So part of it is sort of thinking about what it is that you ultimately want to do, But you shouldn't be, don't beat yourself up if you don't know the answer to that. I didn't know that I wanted to be a professor until I was done with my PhD, right? So I just, again, going back to something that Pelika said, doors of opportunity opened for me, and I followed those doors of opportunity. And some of those opportunities happen to be getting degrees in that field. So you may go get an undergraduate degree, you get yourself gainfully employed in natural resource management, and you might realize later on that, okay, what I actually want to do in natural resource management requires a graduate degree. You can always go back to school and get that graduate degree, and then go on to do what it is that you really want to do. So you can start working now, and as you're working in the field, figure out what it is your ultimate goals are, and then acquire the appropriate educational degrees along the path.
I just want to add to that to don't be shy or intimidated by different degrees. I remember when I was in middle school and high school, I really struggled with math. And I was really nervous about pursuing a degree in marine biology because you had to take calculus and organic chemistry and these really heavy mathematics courses. But I found that once I got into college and I just worked really hard. I went to a lot of tutoring sessions and I actually ended up getting an A in calculus. So definitely don't let any of those kind of things that might feel kind of intimidating now get in the way of what kind of degree you're thinking about pursuing. And I would definitely recommend pursuing something that you're passionate about and interested in, because you're going to end up spending a lot of time doing it too.
I'm going to jump in because I think I'm the only person on this panel that doesn't formally have a science degree. I agree with Blair. Figure out what you want, and you don't have to figure it out in your first or two when you're 18 and 19. Again, that experience resume we talked about earlier is huge. Try different things. My parents are really great about just try everything and then you figure it out. So I spent my first year kind of just taking whatever classes that I fancied, and then fell into all of these different opportunities, which fell into other experiences, internships, networks, and then that's kind of led the path. And because again, right, you want to choose something that you're going to want to do for the rest of your life, hopefully. And that is, and again, the conversations have changed a lot since when I was going to school, since Kainana has been going to school, since all of the panel has been going to school. A lot of people are pushing towards different education pathways as well. And there's so many ways that we can malama aina, and there's so much things. So my formal education outside of the experiences, my BA is in Hawaiian Studies, and I took a lot of marine science courses, but my circumstances didn't let me get a degree in it because I was raising 3 young children at the time. My master's is in Hawaiian Studies as well, and I did it on a Malama Aina track, so it's Hawaiian Conservation track. So it took me through those circles, and then I am in a PhD program right now. It's actually in education, but because my experiences have taken me through all of these different networks, and most of the panel are in these networks where they know that even though their experience and degrees are within STEM, it's a collection of a lot of perspectives that make it successful. You know, you have education, but you also have other degrees like anthropology that are inputting, and you know the other arts and social sciences that are contributing to, because again, right, we're affecting change in a community that doesn't only exist within natural resource management. It affects everyone. So even though this is a natural resources panel, there are other, like, we want as many of our local kids to go there, but there's other pathways that can end you up here, as well as going hard into like the chemistries and those other things. Yeah, Do you want me to answer that other question since it just came up? Since I'm talking already, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. No, that would be great. And then I think the period wraps up within the next 5 minutes. So unfortunately, but maybe it'll be okay if we go over by a few minutes. But yeah, feel free to answer
I'm
the
sorry for the other
question.
panelists talking so much. That other question, there's a question that says, do you think there will be more tri-weight programs like Kalaimano to help preserve our ocean resources and marine life? Yes and no. To be quite honest, tri-weight was just something that the community were like, they're just fed up with the circumstances of what happened, and that was the tool that they were given to do something. So on that note, it was something that was given to them to do something about trying to figure out a way to stop the madness, if you will, so they can start to solve problems. What Tri-Weight at Kalaimano at Ka'upulehu is doing is, it was just a mechanism to stop. But what they're doing within the 10-year wait that's happening is trying to figure out a way to accommodate what we're trying to get to, which is sustainable harvest, right? So the Tri-Weight is just like a Band-Aid to get to a place where we can set up a system where we're always being able to harvest and always have productive systems and always have great habitat and always have the biodiversity needed for the productivity of a place. So yes and no, I think Tri-Weight was the kind of the big in your face, something's happening, let's reset the community, let's shock the community into like, participate guys, we need to start doing something before it gets worse. But I don't see it as being a long-term 10-year closures. I don't see it being a long-term solution to solving as a system to solve our problems, because of Tri-Weight takes up 3 miles of a shoreline. We're talking about geographic conservation management. And if we want to talk about historical cultural systems, we didn't go to the other sides of the islands to harvest, right? So if we want to talk about maintaining our ahupua or our moku, we need to allow harvest within our ahupua and moku. So shutting places down permanently don't address that. And until we have that discussion, we can't find solutions to address that. So, so I don't know if that answers it, but yes and no. I do see communities wanting to engage in place-based management. And Tri-Weight was a solution to be able to pause and give the community a chance to create a mechanism that will allow place-based, not only management, but place-based sustainable harvest and place-based thriving and place-based all of the above. And then I'm gonna, be quiet right now.
Thank you so much, everyone. So I think we've kind of hit the end of this period, unfortunately, but students, if anything today that folks said sounds interesting and maybe something that you want to do, there's lots of ways to get involved, Kupu being one of them, but many more from middle school, high school onwards. And so we'll be sure to pass on some of those programs and ways to get involved to your teachers. And so we'll be in communication about that. Because it's definitely never too early to get involved. And if we could just all, send our thanks and say our thanks to these panelists. Thank you so much for being here today and taking your time out and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. It's a really great opportunity.